Sometimes in life, helping others feels inconvenient. We get busy, we get comfortable, and we tell ourselves, it's not my responsibility. But what many people forget is this: even the smallest act of kindness can change everything. Today, listen carefully to a simple yet powerful story of a donkey and a horse. It is a story about selfishness, regret, and the quiet strength of cooperation. Believe me, this story doesn't just entertain, it makes you think deeply about life. In a small village lived a poor washerman. He worked hard every day just to survive. He owned 2 animals, a donkey and a horse. The donkey's life was full of struggle. From early morning until evening, he carried heavy piles of clothes from the village to the river and back again. Day after day, the weight pressed down on his tired back. His legs ached, his breath grew heavy, but he never complained. Silently, faithfully, he continued his work. The horse, on the other hand, lived a very different life. He carried the washerman occasionally, but most of his days were spent resting peacefully. While the donkey suffered under heavy loads, the horse enjoyed comfort and ease. The washerman loved both animals, yet he failed to notice how unfair their work had become. As days passed, the donkey grew weaker and thinner. Still, he worked on. The horse remained carefree. One day, the washerman decided to collect clothes from every house in the village. The piles grew larger and larger. Excited, the washerman said, "Today we have a lot of work to do." He placed the final bundle on the donkey's back. The load was now almost unbearable. As they walked toward the river, the washerman walked beside them. The horse moved ahead freely without any burden. With every step, the donkey trembled. His legs shook, his breathing became uneven, but he kept going. Halfway through the journey, completely exhausted, the donkey finally looked at the horse with tired eyes and said softly, "Friend, please help me. This load is too heavy. If you carry even a little, our work will become easier." The horse laughed lightly and replied, "I am here to serve our owner, not to carry your burden. Carrying loads is your job, not mine." The donkey said nothing more. With a deep sigh, he continued walking, but the weight became too much. His legs gave way. Suddenly, he collapsed onto the ground under the heavy load. The washerman rushed toward him, tears filling his eyes. "Oh, my poor donkey," he cried. "I should never have put such a heavy load on you." He quickly removed all the clothes from the donkey's back. The donkey lay still, too weak to stand, too weak to carry anything again. Now there was only one choice. The washerman placed the entire load onto the horse. As the horse began to walk, the weight crushed down on him. His steps slowed, his body strained. For the first time in his life, he felt the harsh reality the donkey had faced every single day. A deep regret filled his heart. If only I'd helped him earlier, the horse thought. He would not have suffered so much, and I would not be carrying all this weight alone now. We could have shared the burden. From that day on, the horse changed. He sincerely decided that he would always help others, even if it required a little extra effort, because he finally understood this truth. Kindness is never small. Cooperation is never a loss. This story teaches us a powerful lesson. When we refuse to help others, our selfishness often returns to us in painful ways. But when we share responsibility and work together, even the heaviest burdens become lighter. Compassion builds strong bonds. Understanding another's struggle brings hearts closer, and recognizing our mistakes and learning from them is real success. So remember, a small act of kindness today can prevent a big regret tomorrow. If this story touched your heart, like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, take care and choose kindness.
In a small town tucked in the far northeast corner of Maine, where winter snow piles so deep the front door sometimes won't open, lived an old man named Jacob Jack Harris. He was closing in on 70, but his eyes still carried that boyish spark, the one that never quite faded. Jack's only real companion for years had been his chocolate lab, Rusty. Rusty's coat was the color of strong coffee, and his tail never stopped sweeping back and forth like it was keeping time to music only he could hear. Jack's son Daniel had moved to California long ago. He called once a year, maybe sent a Christmas card with a family photo Jack would study for hours, but he never came home. One freezing morning, minus 18 degrees, the kind of cold that burns your lungs, Jack noticed Rusty wasn't eating. The old dog just lay there, head on his paws, eyes half open. Jack knew. He'd seen it before, in other dogs, in people. Time was up. He lifted Rusty gently into his arms. The dog felt lighter than he should have. Jack's hands shook, but he carried him outside anyway. Behind the shed sat an old wooden sled Jack had built himself decades earlier. He laid Rusty on it, tucked a thick wool blanket around him, and whispered, "Let's take one last walk, buddy." They went slow, past the edge of town, into the pine woods. The snow was so soft it swallowed every footstep. Jack talked the whole way, voice low and cracking. "Remember the day I brought you home? You were so tiny you crawled right inside my boot. Daniel was 7. He screamed, 'Dad, look, we got a baby bear.'" Jack tried to laugh. It came out as a choked sob. They reached a small clearing. An ancient oak stood in the center, the same tree where Jack's father had taught him to fish, where Jack had later taught Daniel how to throw a frisbee for Rusty to chase. The dog used to leap so high it looked like he might fly. Jack knelt. He stroked Rusty's head. The old lab's eyes were cloudy now, but they still found Jack's face, still trusted him. "You were the best friend I ever had, Rusty. I never left you, not once, and I'm not leaving you today." From his coat pocket, Jack pulled a faded Polaroid. Him, young Daniel, and a chubby puppy Rusty, all grinning in summer sunshine. He held it in front of Rusty's nose. "Look, the 3 of us, always together." Rusty's tail gave one slow, tired wag. Then it stopped. Jack started crying then. Quiet, steady tears that froze on his cheeks before they could fall far. He leaned close to Rusty's ear. "If you get there first, wait for me. Just a little while. I promise I'm coming soon." Rusty exhaled once, long and slow. His warm tongue brushed Jack's knuckles one last time. Then his eyes closed. Jack stayed like that a long time, arms wrapped around the still body, snow falling thicker now, gently covering Rusty like a white sheet. Like the woods themselves were taking him back. When the light began to fade, Jack stood. He didn't put Rusty back on the sled. He carried him the whole way home in his arms. Inside, he laid Rusty on his own bed, switched on the little lamp beside it, and picked up the phone. It rang a long time before a sleepy voice answered. "Hello? Dan. It's Dad." "Dad? It's the middle of the night. What's wrong?" Jack's voice broke wide open. "Rusty's gone." Silence. Then a long, shaky breath. "I'm coming. First flight tomorrow morning. I'm coming home." Jack couldn't speak anymore. He just held the phone and cried. The next morning, Daniel walked through the door. He dropped his bag and pulled his father into a hug so tight it hurt. They stood there in the hallway crying like they hadn't since Daniel was a little boy. Together, they dug a grave behind the house, under that same old oak. Daniel made a simple wooden cross and carved into it with a pocket knife. Rusty Harris, best damn dog in the world, 1998 to 2026, loved fiercely. Missed forever. Jack pressed the cross into the frozen earth. They stood shoulder to shoulder as snow kept falling, softer now, almost kind. Daniel put a hand on his father's shoulder. "I'm not going back, Dad. I'm staying, right here, with you." Jack looked up at his son, eyes wet, a small, trembling smile breaking through. "Rusty licked my hand one last time before he went. Felt like he was saying, 'Now go get your boy.'" Daniel laughed through tears. "Then his job's done. He can rest." From that day on, the old house had life in it again. Laughter came back. Rusty's chewed-up tennis balls still sat in the corner. Sometimes Jack would pick one up and just hold it, smiling. Every winter, when the snow falls thick, Jack and Daniel walk out to the oak tree. They stand quiet for a while. Then Jack always says the same thing. "Thanks, buddy. You brought us back together." And somewhere in the wind, if you listen close, you can almost hear the soft thump-thump of a happy tie.
3 years earlier, the dog had a home. Not a big house, not a perfect family, just a man named Daniel. Daniel was a truck driver. Long hours, low pay, a lonely life. The dog, he named him Buddy, was the only one who waited for him every night. No matter how late, no matter how tired Daniel was, Buddy was there. Then one winter, Daniel lost everything. His job, his apartment, his hope. On the last day before leaving town, Daniel tied Buddy near the bus stop. "I'll come back," he whispered. "I promise, just wait here." Buddy didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. So he waited. Every morning at exactly 6:30 a.m., people walking past the old bus stop noticed the same thing. A dog, brown fur, one ear slightly torn, eyes calm but tired. He sat in the same spot, didn't beg, didn't bark, just waited. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. People assumed he was waiting for food, but he wasn't. He was waiting for someone who promised to come back. The first few days, Buddy was excited. Every bus that stopped, he stood up. Every pair of footsteps, his tail moved. After a week, the excitement faded. After a month, hunger arrived. Some people were kind. A woman left water. A child shared half a sandwich. Others were cruel. "Why don't you just leave? He's just a dog." But Buddy stayed. Rain soaked his fur. Snow burned his paws. Summer sun cracked the pavement. Still, he waited. Because when you believe in someone, you don't check the calendar. Years passed. The city changed. New buildings, new people, new lives. But Buddy remained, like a memory no one wanted to remember. A local cafe owner once said, "That dog has more loyalty than most humans I know." Yet no one took him home. They thought, someone else will. He looks fine. It's not my responsibility. So Buddy became invisible, not because he wasn't there, but because people stopped looking. One evening, a young man named Ethan missed his bus. Frustrated, tired, angry at life, he sat on the bench and noticed Buddy. Not the fur, not the scars, the eyes. Eyes that had been waiting too long. Ethan offered food. Buddy didn't rush, didn't jump. He ate slowly, carefully, like someone afraid the kindness might disappear. Ethan came back the next day, and the next. He learned the story, and one night he asked the question no one else did. What if the promise was never kept? It took weeks, patience, silence, understanding. Ethan didn't force Buddy. He sat with him every day, until one morning, Buddy stood up and walked away from the bus stop on his own. Not running, not scared, just ready. At Ethan's home, Buddy slept for 14 hours straight, like a soul that hadn't rested in years. Buddy didn't wait because he was weak. He waited because he was loyal. And loyalty, in a world that moves fast and forgets easily, is rare. If a dog can wait years for a broken promise, what excuse do we have to give up on our dreams, our people, or ourselves? Sometimes life won't come back for us, and that's when we must choose.
Imagine this, the busiest train station on Earth, millions of people rushing every day, but in the middle of all that chaos, one small dog sits completely still every single afternoon, same spot, same time, for almost 10 years. His name was Hachiko. His owner left one morning and never came back. But Hachiko, He never stopped waiting. Through freezing winters, burning summers, pouring rain, he waited. Because some love doesn't understand goodbye. This is the true story of the dog who waited forever and showed the world what loyalty really means. In the heart of Tokyo, where the endless crowds of Shibuya rush in every direction, one small bronze statue remains perfectly still. Day after day, year after year, people stop, take photos, smile, and walk away. But very few truly understand what that statue represents. It is not just art, it is a promise kept. It is love that refused to die. Its name is Hachiko. The story begins quietly in November 1923 in a remote farming village in Akita Prefecture, Japan. A litter of Akita Inu puppies was born. Among them was a sturdy golden brown male, the 8th puppy. Most would never leave the countryside, but fate had other plans. In 1924, a respected professor from the University of Tokyo named Hidesaburo Ueno visited Akita for work. One of his former students, knowing the professor loved dogs, gifted him this young Akita puppy. Professor Ueno named him Hachi, meaning 8. Over time, people added the affectionate honorific, and he became known forever as Hachiko. When Hachiko arrived in the bustling city of Tokyo, he entered a new world and a new heart. Professor Ueno lived in the Shibuya area. Every single morning, the two would walk together to Shibuya Station. The professor would gently stroke Hachiko's head, say a soft goodbye, and board the train to work. And every single afternoon, Hachiko would return to the same exact spot on the platform to wait. He arrived early, sat patiently, ears alert, eyes searching the crowd for the familiar face, the familiar walk, the familiar smile. This simple daily ritual became their unspoken language. The station workers smiled at him. Shopkeepers nearby knew his name. Commuters began to recognize the loyal dog who waited so faithfully. No one had to teach him the schedule. Somehow, he just knew. Then came May 21st, 1925. That morning started like any other. Professor Ueno left for the university. Hachiko walked him to the station as always. But that day, something terrible happened far away from Shibuya. While lecturing his students, Professor Ueno suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage. He collapsed and passed away within minutes. He was only 53 years old. Hachiko waited that afternoon. He waited the next day. He waited the day after that. And he never stopped. No one could explain to a dog what death meant. All Hachiko understood was that his master had left through that gate and had always come back through it. So he kept returning, every day, at the same time, in the same place. The professor's family tried to care for Hachiko. They fed him, gave him shelter, but every morning he would slip away and walk miles across the city back to Shibuya Station. Eventually, they stopped fighting it. His heart had already chosen where it belonged. For almost 10 years, 9 years and 9 months to be exact, Hachiko maintained his vigil. Through freezing winters, scorching summers, heavy rain, and deep snow, he was there every single day. Never once did he give up hope. Never once did he stop believing that one day his master would step off that train again. Slowly, the people of Shibuya began to understand. At first, they pitied him. Then, they admired him. Vendors saved food scraps. A local shop owner brought him water. Children would pat his head gently. Newspapers wrote about him. In 1932, one powerful article spread Hachiko's story across Japan. Suddenly, he was no longer just a dog at the station. He was a national symbol of loyalty. People traveled from distant cities just to see him. Some brought treats. Others simply bowed in silence. Photographers captured his patient pose. And in April 1934, something extraordinary happened. A bronze statue of Hachiko was unveiled right outside Shibuya Station. The real Hachiko attended the ceremony. He sat quietly while people cheered and flashbulbs lit up the crowd. It was perhaps the only time in history a living dog witnessed his own monument being revealed. But even the strongest hearts cannot beat forever. On March 8, 1935, Hachiko was found lying near the station. He had passed away peacefully in the place he loved most. He was 11 years old. The cause was old age and illness, but many believe it was also a heart that had simply waited long enough. Japan mourned. Newspapers carried the story on their front pages. Thousands attended his funeral. His body was laid to rest beside Professor Ueno's grave so that in death, master and dog could finally be reunited. Today, the statue still stands in Shibuya Crossing, one of the busiest places on Earth. Tourists meet friends there, couples take photos, business people rush past, and every so often someone stops, looks into those calm bronze eyes, and feels something stir inside. Hachiko did not wait for fame. He did not wait for praise. He waited only for one person, and in that waiting, he showed the world what loyalty really means. Not loyalty that expects something in return, not loyalty that lasts only while it is convenient, but loyalty that endures. Jack Riley was 16 when his old man kicked the bucket. Heart attack, right there on the oil-stained floor of their tiny garage in Fresno. Jack didn't cry. He just wiped the grease off his hands, stared at the half-fixed Chevy, and whispered, "Guess it's on me now." Mom worked double shifts at the diner, so nights were Jack's. Him, a busted radio, and whatever junkyard parts he could drag home on his bike. School? Sure, he went, but mostly to sleep. Teachers called him Lost Cause. Classmates called him Gearhead. Jack didn't care. He had a plan. Build something so good, the world would have to look up. By 19, he'd dropped out. Not dramatically, just stopped showing up. Instead, he sold his comic collection, bought a busted electric scooter off Craigslist, and started tinkering. Nights blurred into mornings. Solder smoke in his lungs, caffeine in his veins. First prototype, a joke. Went 3 blocks, died like a cheap phone battery. Jack laughed so hard he fell off, but he fixed it. Again and again. Until one dawn it hummed, real steady hum, down Shaw Avenue, wind slapping his face like applause. He parked outside the community college, chain-locked it, and walked in. Not to enroll. To ask if he could charge it in their lot. The janitor, old Gus, squinted. "What's that thing?" Jack grinned. "Future on 2 wheels." Gus let him stay. In return, Jack tuned Gus's ancient lawnmower. Word spread. Soon kids were begging rides, professors were staring. Someone filmed him zooming past the quad. Video hit 1,000 views overnight. Title, Fresno Kid Builds Mad Electric Beast. Comments? Fake. Prop. Jack didn't read them. He was too busy welding. But money? That was the wall. Parts cost cash, and diner tips dried up when Mom's back gave out. Jack pawned his dad's watch. Just a Timex, but it was all he had left. Bought a lithium pack. One night, engine roaring, he hit a pothole. Frame cracked. Whole thing crumpled. He sat in the dark garage, sparks dying, and for the first time whispered, "Maybe they're right." Then he heard Gus's voice. "Boy, you quit now. That watch was for nothing." Jack slept on the concrete. Woke up welding. Months later, a tech startup scout saw him at the farmer's market, Jack charging $5 a pop for joyrides. Dude in a Patagonia vest asked, "Want a pitch?" Jack almost laughed. Pitch? He could barely spell it. But he went. Wore his only clean shirt, stains hidden under a jacket, room full of suits. He rolled out the scooter, now sleek, matte black, lights like dragon eyes. Rode it in circles. They clapped. One guy asked, "Price?" Jack shrugged. "Whatever keeps my mom off her feet." They laughed, then wired him 50 grand for prototypes. First order, 200 units. Jack had no factory, so he turned the garage into chaos. Friends welding, cousins painting, Gus sweeping. They shipped late. First batch, half died in rain. Returns piled up, lawsuit threat. Jack's mom cried, "Sell the house." He stared at the garage wall, Dad's old toolbox, dents like metals, and said, "No, we fix." They did. New sealant, better seals. Second batch, sold out in days. Money rolled, not millions, yet, but enough to rent a warehouse, hire 3 guys, name it Riot Wheels. Logo? A cracked gear with a smile. Jack flew to LA for a pitch fest, rode his bike on stage. No suit, just hoodie. "Look," he said, "I built this out of nothing. You can too." Crowd cheered. One investor, silver-haired, pulled him aside. "Kid, failure's tuition. You paid up." Jack nodded. "Then I aced the test."